Welcome back to part 3, everybody. Today we are working on this Maxi LS again, and I think I'm going to work on the top end. I'm going to take off these nuts, I'm going to pull this gasket and work on the top end, clean it up. First thing I noticed when I tried to take this one off, the whole thing came out. I don't know if they tightened that nut down really tight or what. I've never had that happen before. This one did not come off, so we're going to have to double nut this guy. Double nutting is a really great process and it's easy. You just put 2 nuts on, tighten the nuts against each other. You can loosen the inner nut and it'll turn the whole stud. Now we want to clean this stuff up. That's brake cleaner. I'm using it just to get rid of any residue. Alright, we have a clean mating surface. Now we can put the studs back in. Again, the best way to do this is to double nut them and then drive them in with the outer nut. Alright, time to move on to the top end. This is the Treat 70 kit. It's a mild kit, but it's really great. It'll do 45, no problem, and it's pretty reliable. I'm going to remove the ring, check the ring gap, and then I'm going to clean up all these sharp edges with just a little bit of sandpaper. I have a great video about setting ring gap that I will link to. To clean up the edges, I'm using 600 grit sandpaper, and I'm lightly sanding the edges. I don't want any sharp spots. If you have a sharp spot on the bottom of the piston skirt, it'll act as a squeegee and it'll scrape all the oil off the cylinder. So make sure that's nice and rounded. I'm going to do the same thing to the cylinder. I'm going to use a little bit of sandpaper on my finger and I'm going to go around the ports, make sure there's nothing sharp for a ring to catch. Alright, this one's good to go. I'm going to clean this one and then spray it out and we can install it. We have to put the ring back on, so start at one edge and slowly work your way around. Be really careful because rings can break really easily. Alright. To install the piston, we have to put in circlip rings. I do one side first, then I push the pin in, and then I do the other side. These have a little piece that you can grab with your pliers and you can work them in. I get it in just a little bit and then I kind of work it around. These have an opening and you always want the opening pointing down. That way when the piston comes up really hard and it gets shot back from the firing, it won't squeeze out and pop. Now with one end, we can put it on the crankshaft. Take your wrist pin and some assembly lube and lube it up. Slide this in through the crankshaft. Press the pin the rest of the way in, and then set your other circlip. Be careful not to compress it too much. I rotate it around a couple times to make sure it's seated, and then I finish it with the opening at the bottom. Now I'm going to install the gasket. Make sure to lube the cylinder now and smear it around with your finger because you don't want the piston going into a dry cylinder. You can also lubricate the piston. There's a little pin right here that the 2 ends of the ring go against. So when we install the piston into the cylinder, you have to squeeze the ring to meet that little pin. One thing that helps this is if you have your hand on the flywheel, you can push the piston in with the flywheel. Okay. With the cylinder on, rotate the piston with a flywheel to make sure that the piston is not going above the cylinder edge, because then it would hit the head. This head is the O-ring head, so we do not need the gasket. This part is fun, getting the lock washers on. I use a needle nose pliers and I set them on like that. I have a special socket that I put a piece of paper in, crumpled up, so the nut doesn't go all the way down, so it's just on top, and then I can put them on the studs easier. I'll finish up with my torque wrench at 10.5 Newton pounds and go around in a star pattern. The top end is on. Now we can do the intake and the exhaust. This cylinder did not come with studs for the intake or the exhaust, so I had to buy some. And to install them, we're going to use the double nut technique, just like we did for the cylinder studs. That one fell right into the intake. Luckily I had the piston closed, so it didn't fall into the crankcase, so I can pull that out. On the exhaust, I have to do the same thing, so I'll put these in and then we'll install the exhaust. Put your gasket on and then get the pipe mounted. Like that. To hold the pipe in place, you can put a screwdriver through the back mount. Now put your nuts on. Tighten the exhaust nuts evenly on both sides. So I got these tightened down, but I have an issue now. With the pipe tight, the rear mount doesn't line up. So I could make some kind of adapter plate or weld the tab on and drill a hole, but this doesn't line up. So thanks a lot, MLM. I was going to install the carb next, but when I went to test fit it, it doesn't fit. It does fit without the air filter. The carburetor does fit without the air filter, and it's a little bit sideways, but you can't remove the carburetor without removing the intake, which is pretty annoying for jet changes. And without an air filter, since this is a piston port, you're going to get a lot of gas that blows back. So you're going to get gas on your foot and leg, so your leg will always smell like gas after riding it. So I'm going to maybe make a new intake or talk to the owner about something else. Thanks for watching part 3, everybody. I think that's all for this part. Now I got to do the carb, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that intake or that carb. But thank you for watching, and I hope you stick around for part 4. Thanks. Bye.